Here's Wilson, and on the right circle, he scores!
Rebound loose, wild scramble in front, score! Ovechkin with a buzzer beater! It'll count!
And a hat trick tonight, number 21,
Hello, welcome out there, Power Play Point podcast listeners and viewers. And so we're doing things a little different, as you can probably see and or hear, doing a live Zoom meeting and also broadcasting through Twitch as well. So courtesy of our good friends from the Sports on the Hill podcast, namely Mr. Robbie Gross, helping us out today, as you can see on video. And we've also got, of course, our one and only mermaid, Anna Knox, with us.
How you doing, Gil? Happy
Pretty good.
Saturday.
Yeah, it's a Saturday, and it's the day before the last week of the season. Glad to have you on. And also helping us out this week, we have one of our newer additions, but back, I got to say, somewhat by popular demand. He was on our roundtable episode a few weeks ago. Got quite a few kudos from our listeners, so we brought him back for this special episode. It's Kasey Malone, live from the great state of Kentucky. Kasey, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me back on.
Pleasure. Glad to have you on. Okay, so it was a bit of a long week this week for the Caps. Before we get into the on ice action, I'd be remiss in reminding the watchers and viewers of this meeting link that we're also, as I mentioned, we are also lined up with a Twitch link, which I believe Robbie is arranged for that to display. So it's a live look-in. I probably butchered that because I'm very, very new to Twitch. But the reason that the Twitch link is significant is because the look-in is for musicians and artists that are organizing to benefit a very special charity. It's the Oceans Harmony charity in honor of Earth Day, which was a couple days ago. So we'd really, really like for you to click on the link, check out that Twitch link. Got some artists coming on, musical artists that are performing, and there's a charity, there's a donation link there. We'd really like for you to look over that. Again, it's the charity is called Oceans Harmony. Their sole task and purpose is to protect all the oceans of our one and only planet Earth. And again, it's in honor of Earth Day. So, of course, it's a very important cause. I'd like you to check that out. We'll be reminding you of that every so often during this live broadcast.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all of you, those who are listening in live now, for spending your Saturday evening with us. And Robbie presented me with that cause, and I figured, we haven't really done anything globally like that. And of course, it's one of the mermaid's favorite things, going to the beach. So
100%. I'm out here, and I am making my donation when I sign off. So that's absolutely. I'm a big supporter of ocean cleanup and anything we can do to save the oceans, for sure, because people suck when they pollute.
Yeah,
pick up your trash, people.
As will I. As am I.
So real quickly, I just want to jump in and sort of explain Twitch, since I know that Gil is new to it, and some of the listeners might be too. So we're live broadcasting. At the very bottom of the Twitch, you can see how much money we've raised as an organization. It's part of a raid train. So there's been these musicians, and it started off with Carly Sings yesterday, and she was singing and raising funds, and she raised about $250 in the first 2 hours, and it's been going all the way through. I stayed up till 2:30 in the morning. It went until 4. Then it started Saturday at 8:00. It picked up again, and it's been going ever since. So we'll definitely do a live look in a little bit to see how LG Music, another one of the organizers for this train. And what's cool about this train is it's happening all over the world. There's been musicians from Scotland on earlier, and ones from all over. And so it's really kind of cool to hear music from all over the world and everyone coming together to raise funds for a really important cause. I mean, if anybody has followed my YouTube channel, I'm a huge scuba diver and I'm a marine biologist advocate. Like, I thought I would be a marine biologist as a kid. And so it's a really important thing for me. I try to document underwater sea life and also show coral bleaching across different areas as I dive them. And I do it to music to make it a more enjoyable video. But it's something that's really important. And I've already talked to the organizers, and a dream of mine is to dive in Australia. And this charity is actually located in Australia. It's a global organization, but that's where it's housed. And I hope to someday go diving for them and maybe shoot a video for them down there in the future. But it's such an important cause, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And that's why I came to Gil and I said, hey, let's do a collab stream. It can be live on Twitch. It's live on Facebook as well. We've shared it to a bunch of groups. People can ask questions in the Facebook chat or in the Twitch chat, and the donation link will keep on popping up on the Twitch chat. I've also put it in the description of the Facebook Live, so people can always click on all of that. And I ask people, if you donate and you're listening to this podcast, just put like Caps fan in it, and I'm going to be looking at the donations. And so I know that it's from you versus the music show that's going on right now, which is also raising funds for it. So
yeah, so let's get money raised.
Yeah,
yes.
I love it.
Yeah, $2,300 in a day, a little over a day is really good. So, but
now, real quick, can I ask what exactly is the money going towards, just in case I get questions?
Gil, you had a list of a couple of things that it was going to and stuff like that. Did you want to read some of those, or do you want me to go through it? Either way.
Okay, so it's the main charity, as I understand it, is Oceans Harmony.
Yes.
That's the organization. So I'm going to see if I can dash over to their webpage real quick.
Well, I have just the basic mission of them, and while you're looking that part up. So today we're raising the funds for Oceans Harmony, and their mission is driven by a dedicated group of professionals who provide time growing this beautiful and compassionate global family. They build a significant forest conserving. That's their big thing. So they go and they try to take plastics out of the water is a big thing that they do. They do lots of different conservation efforts for the world's oceans and stuff.
Perfect. I knew it was going to be something fantastic. I just didn't know if they had one, single place that they were starting, but it's global. That's amazing. Yeah. Huge supporter.
Yeah, basically.
Sorry about my dog.
No, you're fine. There's, the sharks and overfishing of them, and there's a bunch of different issues that they help fight at a global level. So it's been really cool to partner with them. Gil, did you find anything else that you wanted to mention?
Well, I'm on their website, and they have as part of their they just want everybody to start thinking about the consequences of human activity. And I'm not one of these people that's blame humanity, but just think about what we do on this one and only planet that we have to live on. And so that one of the highlights of their website is several topics they want people to consider. The plastic continent, for one, not just the fact that you pollute the ocean with it, but the fact that you literally could make a content with all the plastic that gets dumped into the ocean, not to mention what could fill a landfill. That's a separate subject. But the fact that also plankton is very important. So that's very, very understated marine life, but it's very, very important to marine biology and to the overall ecology of the oceans. So probably something people don't even think about, but they should. Overfishing, pollution, of course, fish farming, ghost fishing, and shark netting. Well, of course, we already know about this, or we should already know about this. But the thing I was told that not to do very much of was, for one thing, try not to order drinks with straws in them, because they often get dumped in the ocean and they cause that mess. Probably the number one pollution item, and the fact that finally, whatever you do now will affect future generations. That's your grandchildren and your great grandchildren. Yep. So many topics to think about. that consider our ocean. And I mean, it should be obvious to all of us, but our ocean is more than 2/3 the surface of our planet. And there's a lot of things going on in the ocean that affect human life. So we all should be concerned, do our part in some way, however big or small, whether it's donating or being more active in the community. So we're just trying to do something here to make people more aware and make
I think awareness is actually a big part of the raid train. I mean, obviously the money is helpful and it's important, but I think that, talking about some of these things, a couple of other things that they want people to know is they want the harmony and balance of the ocean. When we go into the ocean and what we're doing with the ocean, that we're not messing up their balance. I mean, which I've seen with significant coral bleaching in previous years. And, and so some of that life is coming back, but it takes a lot of time and it can be damaged so quickly, but also they want to encourage genuine research and publication of peer-reviewed findings, and then with no issues with the political side of it or commercial interests, but really try to figure out what's in the best interest for the environment. And I think that's really an important thing too.
Absolutely.
And it takes just one of us making a change or a difference to see ramifications that grow and grow and grow, because if one of us becomes aware and we continue to do things like this, more people is going to become aware, and that will change things for future generations. And hopefully, as Gilles was saying, it keeps going, and it, maybe we're not the only factor, but if you take one factor away, that's one less factor.
100%.
And that can make a big dividend later on.
And so Definitely. 3 of the 4 of us work in a school setting. I know that kids are super influenced by things, and I don't have it on today, but I do have from making a donation that you can make a donation for. This was for sea turtles at the time, and you get a bracelet that had to do with recycled materials from the ocean, and it's sort of heart-wrenching, but they have enough to make bracelets to tell people how much is getting into the ocean waters. And it's really heart-wrenching, but kids are so easily influenced. And I'm all about, hey, let's get off screens, for the majority of the time, and let's get outside and let's appreciate things. And if you see trash, pick it up. And our oceans are
trash on the seashore, just trying to get out of the ocean. And
exactly.
And
so Robbie,
it's really
thank you for including us in this.
I'm a member of the National Aquarium up in Baltimore, and a big part of what they do is conservation. And it's cool to be able to take Zach to the aquarium that I grew up going to, but it's just they really believe in a lot of these core missions. I think that it's really important, and I try to take him to aquariums around the world and show him diving videos and really show that the world underwater, I don't know how many people get to scuba dive, but I really highly encourage if anyone ever has a chance to check out my Facebook channel, because it's a different world under there. I've got some really cool manta ray videos underwater at nighttime eating plankton that we were just talking about. And it's like you're in a different planet down there. And we just know so little about what's going on down there. And I just encourage people to do a little bit more research and see how incredible sharks are. I mean, I've swam with sharks since I was 16 years old. I mean, they're not the danger to society that, some people out there would think that they are. I mean, it's just important that people have a ecosystem and go and visit these places. But obviously, I don't ever disturb them. I never touch anything, but just to try to give people a view into the world that's underwater. And so it's something that's really important to me. And but I know that a lot of people are here also for hockey talk. So we're going to talk hockey for a little bit, but we'll definitely.
Do you mind if I add one thing before we actually get to hockey? Being one of the few, or being the only person that's in this conversation that lives in more of a Midwestern area, completely surrounded by land, I'm hoping that a few of my family and friends or more will listen to this conversation that we're having. And I'm sure they're going to come to a point where they're going to think, well, we're not by an ocean. We don't have a lot of water sources. But what happens to our oceans does affect the water sources we have here, our creeks, our streams, our lakes. That water is recycled through just the process of how our water, the natural water system works, as well as what kind of fish do we get whenever we do have foods that are brought into places like Kentucky and Indiana, Tennessee, all of those places. That stuff matters. So just because we're landlocked doesn't mean that this isn't important to us.
Absolutely. And the whole, use of plastic bags, the straws. Like my family laughs, but I'm a big Coke Zero fan or other kind of beverages that come with a little plastic 6-pack thing. And I'm always cutting them. And I'm like, because I don't want to think about being responsible for some sea life getting stuck in there, because you see those pictures and, those late night commercials. And I'm like, oh, here's my credit card. But it's so true. It is like, there are things that people can do. And I'm like, no, don't need straws. I've got, the recyclable bags and everything else. So it's the little things. And Kasey, I appreciate that, because you know what I think? People are like, hey, if you're not on the coast, what can I do? A lot. You can do a lot.
I really want to give a quick little shout out to the people that are watching on Facebook Live. There's a bunch of people that are watching, including, I think my dad is watching in Hawaii. He says all the viewers in Hawaii like what you're doing. So that's kind of cool.
Aloha.
Aloha. They're flying.
Thanks, Mr. Gross.
Yeah, thank you.
To go to an island in the Pacific. But anyway, and then Cheryl Ann Foster said hi. And then she also said, I don't have a Twitch. Can I have the link? And I just gave her the link there. So she should be able to, in Twitch chat, be able to donate as well. Because you don't have to be part of Twitch to donate. It's just you can see the progress bar if you are. And then Tom Gobble said, hello, Robbie, Anna, Gil, and my favorite, Luke Combs. So, I thought I would share that.
Thanks, Tom. Moment. You just invented Kasey's future intro. I like to have intros for everybody. You just nailed it for him. Kasey, that's your intro from now on. Whenever you come on the show,
that's awesome.
Our version of Luke,
right,
is what you'll be.
I see other friends are watching in chat. I see Josh Kirby and others as well. If anyone has any questions about Caps talk, or if they want to talk Oceans in the chat, I highly encourage it. I'm watching both Twitch chat and Facebook chat. But I know I'll break in with anything interesting that happens on either of those. But Gil, it was a good week for the Caps for the most part. I was pretty happy. I mean, obviously you want all the points, but I mean, there was a lot that I really enjoyed about this week, but I'm excited to hear your take with Anna, and we can break down each of these games. I know that Kasey saw more of the last night's game than the other ones, but we'll get his thoughts on all of them. And then we'll really look ahead.
I did go back and watch highlights.
Yeah. We'll also talk about the big week we have coming up with all these teams like neck and neck in the standings. It's just, it's going to be an exciting final week of hockey coming up here. And I think it's kind of a really cool time to do this show and really have an opportunity to take a look back on how we got here and how close it all is going to the end here, and where we all want to match up right now, because that's obviously an interesting question, especially with all the goalies and different players getting injured towards the end of the season. So we'll start off with the week coming up, and then we'll the week that was, and then we'll move ahead with some of that conversation. But Gil, I'll let you, since I know this will be on the Power Play Point Point podcast, that we will have you sort of take it away as you normally do, but and we'll give our thoughts as well.
Okay, so so when we last left you, the Caps had begun their Canada / Midwestern road trip. And, of course, the last game was the one in Toronto where, we all know what happened with that. So the next game, they went up into La Belle Province, as I like to call it, Quebec, in Montreal to be more specific, to play the Canadiens. Very fast little sidebar, of course, this being a hockey podcast. Of course, we're all saddened. The hockey world is completely saddened by the recent passing of both, Mike Bossy the week before, and just very recently, Guy Lafleur, Canadiens legend. I made a quick post about him because in honor of one of our big listener fans, Willem Baggis, because that's how he got his start. He grew up in Montreal, so I wanted to say something nice about him. In that he was one of the legends, the early guys growing up when I was first watching hockey in the 70s, that made me fall in love with the sport, I got to say, because he had this wonderful style about him, and he played the game probably the right way, the most elegant way. He was a modern day Jean Beliveau. If you're an old time fan, look up that name, but he played the game that way. But there's actually an interesting, quick little story that ties in with a former Cap. When he retired for the second time, he was actually drafted by the old Minnesota North Stars in a special expansion draft. Well, it turned out he had accepted a job with another team, but could not accept that job because that team didn't have his rights. Well, the North Stars decided to trade his rights to that other team for a player to be named later. That player to be named later, Alan Haworth, who was in Switzerland at the time, but he was a former Cap. Again, old-time Caps fans will remember that he was a big part of the Caps teams in the early 80s. He would be eventually traded for Dale Hunter, but just thought I'd throw that in there. Anyway, so going to try and get through this scoring summary because there were not 1, not 2, not 10, but 12 goals in this thing. So let's blitz through this as fast as we can. Nick Dowd opened the scoring, 12:23 in the first, 1-0. Orlov and Ant-Man, as I like to call him, on the assist for that one. Then that was pretty much it for the first period. It's a very tightly played first period. I was kind of surprised, but you shouldn't be surprised because I think the Canadiens have done a lot of improving with the coaching change to Marty St. Louis. Jake Evans opened the scoring in the second period, about 156 in, ties it 1-1. And then Ant-Man, then he starts going on a tear about 7 minutes later. 2 goals, 34 seconds apart. Starting at 8:03, Eller and Orlov on the assist for the first one, which was his 8th and his 9th. 34 seconds later, Eller on the assist for that one, making it 3-1. And then Ryan Poehling, I hope I said his name right, makes it 3-2. and then pretty much the Caps never looked back after that. Captain gets his 47th, Kuznetsov his 50th assist on that one 7 minutes later. To close the scoring in second period. And then Poehling again opened the scoring in the third, 2:22 in. But again, Caps never looked back after this. Garnet Hathaway would get the game winner about 40 seconds later. Dowden newcomer Johan Larsson on the assist for that one. And then the route pretty much started from there. Then it was Dmitry Orlov about a minute and a half later. Ant-Man on the assist for that one. That's Orlov's 12th. And then the guy who probably had the worst game of all, Justin Schultz, scores his third. He was actually a -4. That's why I say that. Meaning he was on the ice for all 4 of the Canadiens' goals. Orlov and Marcus Johansson on the assist for that one. Nick Suzuki makes it 7-4 for the Canadiens. And then the last goal was on the power play by the guy whose jersey I'm wearing. You can't see it. Maybe, I don't know, 77. TJ Oshie, his 10th, Kuznetsov, his 51st assist, and Carlson, his 52nd assist on the power play. So thus ended the game 8-4. Canadiens, I thought, put up a hell of a fight, all things considered. So I knew as long as the Caps didn't take them lightly, this would be, well, I didn't think it would be as easy a game, but it turned out to be a cakewalk. I think they just ran out of gas in the third period. They came out pretty strong, 15 shots against our guys in the first period. And then they kind of tailed off, and then the Caps ramped it up accordingly. So I think that was the difference. Caps finally woke up a bit after that slow first period and realized, okay, let's let our superior numbers and ability take over. And that's pretty much what they did. Nothing unusual about this game otherwise. They should have won this game. So I was happy to see all the goals and all the guys seeming to get everything gelled together. But yeah, I mean, it was what it was. Like I said, nothing special. What did you guys think?
I liked it. But Gil, I wanted to go back real quick. If you could show everybody, we couldn't see the back of the jersey because of that Yager ponytail of yours.
All right.
Just wondering if you could just
I knew this was coming.
It had to. Come on.
I knew this was coming. So if I'm trying to turn around in my chair here. Okay, so
I love how every one of our shows that we do, it gets a little bit longer. We had the mullet one, like a year ago. I'm still,
yeah.
I was competing with what I got, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm really thinking it comes down to is figure between you and Robbie. But
Well,
maybe next year we'll get to do this again, and instead of me having a ponytail or long hair, my beard's going to be a lot longer.
There you go.
You'll have the Joe Thornton beard going.
Nice.
I'm working on it. On it.
No, I would say I think, Gil, when you and I talked last week, that this is exactly what the Capitals needed going into the week. They needed a good. I certainly didn't expect it to be 8-2, but I'll take it. I think they looked good, and I think it's just exactly the self-esteem kind of kick in the ass that the team needed. So good for them. Yeah.
A point on what you're saying, Anna, and this is what I was talking about with my wife when we were discussing all the players that scored. When you're going into the end of the season, you're going into the playoffs like this, it takes depth scoring. And that often starts with confidence. When you get all players involved and we have the multitude of players scoring like that, they're fighting the back of the net. They're getting the lucky bounces. That adds to it. It makes you hungry. You want more. Yeah. And so we needed games like what we got from here. And I think it was the Flyers was the one that the other really high scoring game for us. Both of those are really good things that you want to see, in my opinion, heading into a postseason, because that means there's confidence from the top line to the bottom pair. Absolutely. And that's what you have to see. And so that gives me some definite confidence headed into the postseason.
And I don't know, let's see, Robbie, you would know this. Was this the comeback game for Orlov because he had been out sick the game before, or the 2 games before?
I thought
it was.
Yeah.
It was his first game back?
Yeah, he did not play.
It was.
Toronto.
Yeah, you're right. It was because he didn't.
He didn't play. Yeah, he didn't play against Toronto because I thought that was maybe one of the difference makers in how Toronto was able to run around against the Caps. So yeah, this was his first game back.
It makes a big difference. I mean, it's hard to compare the Canadiens with Toronto. I mean, they're so much worse team than so you don't know what you're getting. But I was happy that they jumped out quickly. With the Nick Dowd one. Obviously I'm a big Mantha fan. I was really hoping he had the hat trick. He had 4 opportunities to get a goal, and he converted on 2 of them. So I'm not really complaining, but so that's why I had to wear this Mantha shirt today. But he's been playing phenomenal. I mean, we'll get to the game last night, but he got another post. So he almost got another one, but or a crossbar.
Those posts last night were killing.
Oh, maybe it was post, but either way, he's right on it, and it's a beautiful thing. Obviously Ovi scoring, then Orlov scoring as well. Oshie scoring. I mean, you got all of the different people that you really like to get a goal in there, and it's a good feel good and a get right story as a sort of a momentum building throughout a week. So I was happy with it. I try not to take too much stock in a win against Montreal. We dominated in Montreal, by the way, over the course of the last couple of years. It's actually statistically probably better to play there than it is even at home right now. So it's interesting to see that versus we'll talk about Vegas, where we've never got a point before this week. So
so Robbie, actually, you talk about how we should dominate Montreal, or it was a game we should win. That's actually something that this season, a lot of the games that we should win, most of our loss column actually comes from games that we should have won. And so you have to take these little bounces where you get, and I think it's nice to see that we are not being caught in these trap games, much like last night was. And because, we step up when it comes to, and we'll talk about it like when we play Colorado, we tend to step up and show up for those games. It's the ones where, we automatically think we should win that we sometimes come out a little flat.
That's the worst attitude to have, too, going into any game.
Absolutely.
Just to assume.
Yeah, it's also hard to know because Vitek gets more goal support than Sammy, in certain circumstances, and then Sammy has these great acrobatic saves. I've heard you guys talk about on previous shows. It's a battle between the guy who can be more sound between the pipes and just take the better angle versus the guy that can make the save like we saw Holtby make, right? So I believe the ceiling is so much higher for Samsonov than Double V. But I think Double V is solid, right? But he does have some off nights. But it'll just be interesting to see. I mean, I think, I'll get more into last night's game later. But I really think that if Sammy was in that game, we may have lost it, because I was listening to Janaea Talks Caps, and she was doing a goalie analysis, and she's a goalie. And so I think she did a great analysis of the two, of every advanced goalie stat, ones that we don't look at in our normal stuff. And she really went into it. And he basically lost us 3 more games than Vitek did, just based on if we had average goaltending, right? So it's not even at their level. So he has some really bad games. I mean, he's sometimes not even ranked in the top 32 in most of these statistical categories for starting goalies, and that's a problem. Like, I feel more confident with Vitek up there, but I still think that Sammy, if he believes in himself and got in a hot streak, could win us a cup. I believe he's that athletic, but he just doesn't necessarily put games together. I don't know if he could put 16 games together in a row, or even, over the course of it. He just hasn't proven that, for me at least.
I agree.
Well, not to extend the done to death goalie debate, but I think we need to abandon, unfortunately, the plan where, okay, this guy is the number one, because I think it's going to come down to, you got 2 goalies with 2 different playing styles. We don't know who we're going to face in the playoffs yet. Maybe you have one guy who's better suited against a Florida Panthers, or maybe you have the other guy who's better suited to play against the Carolina Hurricanes type of attack. And then, okay, assuming you advance, you play God knows who, and then you have to reevaluate. I think that's probably what we're going to end up having to do here. There probably is not going to be a number one. Right. Play to your strength, play to the matchup. And so I really think that, unfortunately, as much as we'd like to see a number one, a guy we can all get behind, it's probably not going to come to that.
We still have to pick one for who's game one, right? So,
right. And unfortunately, you mentioned her before. Well, yeah, number one, neither have been worthy of or consistent enough of getting that tag. And you mentioned her before. Cheryl Ann Forster and I have discussed this also privately, but both goalies seem to have a very short leash, and it's hard to maintain that confidence if you know that if you let in 1 or 2 bad goals, you're not going to start the next game, even if you win. Yeah. So
I think if you win, you get to continue to start regardless of how many goals you let in. That's my gut feeling on how this will work between the two. But I think it's very much the backup is going to start it for it, and then the initial slated starter is going to come in. So it could be very much like it was in 2018, in the sense that the quote unquote scheduled backup was Grubauer then, and I think it's Vitek now, right? So I think you start with Vitek, and if he doesn't prove that he can win the first 2 games, you give him 2 games on the road. And then if he wins one of those, you keep going with him. But if he loses both on the road, you go to Sammy for the home games. I think that's.
I think I'd go the other way.
I know we're looking at a year removed from Boston, but the game that we won against Boston last year, Sammy was phenomenal up until the injury. Vitek. Sammy hadn't played yet. I'm sorry. But Vitek had been phenomenal up to the injury, and you can't try to wish time back or make it play out any differently in your head. But you have to wonder, if that injury hadn't happened, would it have been a 5-1 or a 4-1 loss? Could we have got another game? Could we maybe have won the series? Because the time in between Vitek and Sammy, and then Sammy trying to warm back up, I think is what cost us that series.
I think you have to put double V into the next game right now, Toronto, and see how he does. Yeah. You've already saw how Sammy did against Toronto. Now, it was without Orlov, so it's not necessarily apples to apples. But if he can keep it close or win the game, then I think he starts game 1 in the playoffs. If he doesn't keep it close and he loses this one, then you use those last 3 games as sort of a barometer. You give both of them 1 game against the Islanders, and then I don't know what you do against the Rangers, but probably based on how the rest of the week shakes out, who gets the Rangers game. But it's not an easy choice.
No, it's not. And I don't think, like I said, Coach Laviolette is going to name a number one before
I don't think so either. He would have by now if he would.
Yes, he would have. He would have.
And his leash wouldn't be so short on both players if he had confidence that one of them was a true number one. And that's one of my few arguments against Robbie. I have no right to ever try to criticize or say that I know any more than these people that are paid money and do this for a living. But my criticism is just, your leash is so short that it's so difficult that if one mistake can literally cause you to miss a start in the next game, you're going to have these players in their head. It's going to cause them to make more mistakes.
Yeah. And I think, and to go along with Kasey saying, Gil and I have talked about this before, I feel like VTech didn't have as much to prove to the fans. We'll just say just with the fans as much as Sammy did, because Sammy had COVID, then he had it again, and then there was this, and it just seemed like he had to redeem himself more to the fans. And that can be hard. When the team is behind you, that's amazing. When the fans are behind you, and you come out and everyone's like, oh, I'm so glad, he's between the pipes. Fuck yeah, let's go. But when you have to sit there and listen to everyone screaming for the backup or the, other goal, that's got to be hard. And that does get in your head. And so I think this entire season, Sammy has had to prove so much more than VTech, but I still feel like, he does have his strengths. He's got the size, he's got the skill, but man, when he messes up, he's going to hear it from all. It's a good thing he's not on our podcast, because he's going to hear about all of our opinions. But I just think he had to redeem more. So I think that just is in his head.
Well, I think it got in his head, but I think it's all been dictated by how tough the Eastern Conference has been all year and how close all these teams are. He couldn't just let somebody play through a bunch of losses and work through it. They just couldn't afford to give up that many games. I think I don't think Laviolette is a coach that naturally is quick to pull the trigger. I don't think that's necessarily his coaching style. As somebody who's watched him over 20 years, and he's, there's a reason why he's one of the winningest coaches in the history of the sport, right? I mean, he's a good coach. I just think that neither one of them ran away with it, and they don't have points to give away. And so he kind of was put in a tough spot, if you will. I think, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they go. I just don't think that Sammy has proven on the goals that are the leaky goals to the post that he's there. And the difference of one goal can be huge in the playoffs. And for that reason alone, that's why I'm leaning towards VTech, because I think he's more solid positionally and he gets less that just sort of squirt through randomly. And I feel bad for Sammy because a lot of them I just think are bad luck, right? Yeah. But he hasn't proven that he can shake past that. And then he often, when he lets one through, he lets two through. And then and that's my big thing is he can't sort of shut off the faucet sometimes. And that becomes a difficult stuff right there. But it's hard to know. And it's a weird thing looking into the last week that we don't have a sure number one or even a glimpse of it. And we haven't had 2 20-win goalies in a very, very long time.
Yeah. And that's sorry, go ahead, Kasey.
All I'm going to say is if anybody out there listening right now is going to take one thing from this conversation, I think that's incredibly important about us as a fandom moving forward, especially going into this postseason. Take what Anna said, hide it in your heart, write it on your brain, put it on your arm, put it on your mirror every morning and look at it when you wake up. Support both goalies.
Yep.
Quit this arguing about who you like more or why you dislike them, because right now it's ride or die with both of them, and we have to support them. If we're going to see any type of success, it's going to have to be because us as fans support both goals.
100%.
Very true. So go ahead, Robbie.
Cheryl's been commenting on Facebook and been agreeing with what a lot of us have been saying. So I just wanted to give her a shout out, and I appreciate her being along with us in the conversation. And she agrees that they're not going to pick a number one. She agrees also the short lease is hurting them. And she also thinks Sammy needs the coaching that we can't give him, which goes back. I kind of agree. You know, I think losing Mitch Corin really hurt this team a lot,
Definitely.
arguably more than losing the head coach. Right. So,
well, thanks, Cheryl Ann. She was fantastic when she was on our show. So that's awesome to know that she's watching this as well. Hope she's having a great weekend.
Before we wrap up this conversation again, I just want to give her another shout out because she's actually taking myself and Mrs. Blue Liner tomorrow to the Toronto game as her guests.
That's awesome.
We'll actually be in attendance along with Brad Silvestro, who does the Just a Fan YouTube channel for Washington Caps fans. So we'll all be there.
I'm so jealous. I was supposed to see him at the Vegas game with Grant and all of you guys, and I'm very jealous. I really like his YouTube channel, and so that's really
he's
cool.
Great.
Maybe you guys can do a clip or something together, or something, with you guys watching the game.
Well, my dream is to have one gigantic round table with you, him, Blake Allen from the Chirpin DMV podcast, and maybe Amy Goldberger from the Pucker Up podcasts. One big giant round table with all these Caps fans who have all these great podcasts, and just
if we
have
win the cup, we can do
one big discussion. That'd be great. But to put a nice neat bow on the conversation, Kasey mentioned 2 win goalies. At the end of the day, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, you did say that, Robbie. But Kasey also had the good point on top of that we're going to win with both of them. And no better set of numbers to point that out with than the win total, which at the end of the day is the most important stat. Yes, we can talk save percentage.
Right.
We can talk other stats, other metrics, all the live day long. But at the end of the day, especially come playoff time, it's who wins the game. Now, no, we don't know with 100% certainty which one of the two gives us a better chance to win. But as I mentioned earlier, it's going to come down to whose playing style benefits us more against which opponent. And so that's probably what the coaching staff will go by and decide. So, but either way, just like Kasey said, whoever it is that's between the pipes, support them. And if they happen to let in a goal, I'm sorry, it's one goal isn't going to kill you if you have the will to win. And as the Caps have shown, they have it. They have the ability, they have the determination when, well, not necessarily when the stars are aligned, but on other nights as well. They have the ability to do it. It doesn't come down to the goalie having to stand on his head every single night, every single shot. So I think Kasey is 100% right. You support the guy between the pipes, no matter who it is, and you don't get down when they let in a goal, because that one goal is not going to kill us if the Caps end up playing the right way in front of them. So,
and the goalie is part of the team.
Yes.
So it is a team. It's not just, these guys and the goalie is separate. No, he's part of the team. And so therefore, as fans, you support your team.
Right. And that's what we're all about here on all of our shows.
Right, all of the positions, because we've been talking about the goalies and stuff like that, but like I've heard people, we've had disagreements on different defensive players throughout the season, but they have to come together, and arguably, as a defense in the whole, they're actually a really good defense. They actually have some of the best metrics and numbers across the board. I think our forwards don't always positionally help them. I think on a lot of turnovers and bad plays started by the forwards, they often get behind the defenders. I'm not saying the defenders are perfect, but like ultimately, we've got to support all of the players. We got to support the forwards. There's a bunch of players that aren't even getting playing time that are young players that I wish could get in the lineup, but like we got to support them too. Like it's across the board. This is a team we've got, and
true. Very true. And speaking of the forwards not doing their job, I have a prime example of that in one of these games coming up. But let's move on to the second game that occurred. That was against the Colorado Avalanche. And I think Joe B and Locker said it at the end of the game. This is probably the most perfect game the Caps have played all season. And I have to totally agree. If this were a restaurant, it would get the chef's kiss. Perfect game. All 60 minutes, up and down the lineup.
Right there. All 60 minutes.
Yes. They did not, and even when the Avalanche were surging back, the Caps stuck to their game plan. And the announcers pointed out, never let the big guns of the Avalanche take the middle of the ice. They took that away. And that was the key in keeping this a relatively low-scoring game. So speaking of the scoring, real quick. So Garnet Hathaway, real sweet deal here. Schultz started the play, moved it to Larson. Larson found Garnet Hathaway streaking into the zone all by himself, gets a nice wrister, 4:02 into the second.
That was beautiful. Oh, so beautiful.
Probably the best goal of the week that not scored by a guy named Ovechkin. I would think. More on him later.
And his 100th point or something, wasn't it?
Yep.
His 100th career point. Yes, exactly. That's what it was. Good on you, Anna. That was.
Sometimes I know what I'm talking about.
Always. Okay, so that was 4:02 into the first. And so then 13 minutes later, almost to the exact, Valeri Nikushkin, say that 5 times fast, his 22nd. Byram and Cale Makar, perennial Norris Trophy candidate. That's Makar's 57th assist on that one. Couldn't keep him off the scoring sheet. Ties at 1-1, 17:05 into the first. That ended the scoring in the first period. Pretty tight game. All around. And then, so we move on to the second, 13:27. Caps get a power play, and Alex Ovechkin puts away the wrister to make it 2-1, 13:27 into the second. And then I'm really, really surprised the Canadiens gave this guy away. Arturi Lehkonen, who was probably one of their best players last year when they made their Stanley Cup run. He gets his 16th. Nico Sturm and a guy named Obe Kubel, who I got sick to death of hearing his name being called when he played for the Flyers. Now he's on the best teams, one of the best teams in the league, on the assist for that one. Tied 2-2, and real tight game, as I said, real exciting, unnecessarily. Well, it is one against one of the best teams, but still. Yeah, I really did not know what the result would be. I did not know how the Caps would react when they got that goal, because this, I believe, was the goal that was reviewed, and it looked to me like the Lehkonen had pushed the pad of the goalie. I believe it's Samsonov who got the start on this one, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was.
When I watched, it was Sammy. And it very much does look like he pushed the pad. Like I said, I didn't watch this game live. I watched the highlights. That still, to me, is an iffy.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that the rule is if you push the pad of the goalie, that is considered goalie interference.
But
whether or not the puck goes
first. So
right.
If they touch the puck before the pad, it's allowed.
Okay, and so is that? I guess that's
that it touched the puck before the goal, the pad.
Well, in his post-game presser, Coach Laviolette seemed to be under the impression that they did not even address that part of it, where the stick was hitting the pad, which to me is still goaltender
because it's a judgment call.
It is a tough call. Me personally,
if he's deemed that he was sliding his in any way, then he's giving up position. I mean, you have to prove that he would have stayed there and he wouldn't have moved backwards unless he pushed it, right? Right.
You also have to prove intent, which is impossible to prove.
Right.
So, but to me, my view of the replay said he had his stick on the goalie's pad, which to me is goaltender interference, because you're interfering with his job to stop the puck. But evidently they didn't see it that way. So I did not know how the Caps would react. Sometimes they get a bit discombobulated, but other times like this, they react very well, and they dig down deep and they figure, okay, well, you know what? This was a call that screwed us. Now it's on us. We need to come back and win this game on our own without any help. And that's exactly what they did about 2.5 minutes later when Connor Sherry found Marcus Johansson all alone on the right circle, who put away the wrister for the game winner. It was a
beautiful goal. And it's
beautiful,
exactly
beautiful.
why I like Mojo. And I know that people were a little down on this move. I've got a couple of quick things I want to address. One, John Carlson's assist to Kasey, who assisted on Ovi's goal. We kind of didn't talk about it. Both of them have over 50 assists this year. And I love seeing the resurgence of that. And John Carlson, his ability to assist. He's been one of the best assist makers on our team this year. And I know, we've gone back and forth on him a bunch, but he's been making some really solid plays, for me. And then Connor Sherry, and talking about the people that are assisting on these goals, I think he, this past week, had one of the best weeks. I just think you see so much from him. Like, it doesn't always show up on the score sheet, but I think he's solid on. He could be on any line. He can be like left wing, right wing. Like, you could even throw him in a center in a situation. Like, he's just one of the most sound defensive, but also just seems to pick his moments and either score, be at the right place, or have a dynamic pass. He really set up Mojo really well for him to have this quick release. And I just can't say enough about Connor Sherry. I really think that he is underrated as a player.
So going in reverse about those three players, Connor Sherry is, I'm going to throw out a name more recent Caps fans may have come to hate. Connor Sherry is everything that we wished Brooks was when he was playing in the red, white, and blue.
I thought Brooks was going to be.
Exactly. The classic Swiss Army knife, can put him in any position. He will never, ever hurt you defensively. He will always go after the puck. He will always be first there, pardon me, on the forecheck. And he will always put himself in position to score or help the scoring. So he's our secret weapon. And as long as I think he can stay healthy and solidify that middle tier of the forward lines, I think we'll be okay as far as that goes. John Carlson, yes, we've gone back and forth about him. Look, as long as he continues playing the way that he's been, I don't think it'll be a problem giving him all those minutes. But the minute that he has somebody bearing down on him, whether it's a 2-on-1 or something where he's got to stop the play or at least try to get in the way somehow and actually play defense and just either stands there or gives up, then that's what I don't want to see. And so far, I haven't seen that. I've seen maximum effort from him, so I do hope he continues that. So, and Mojo, well, I was against this trade, but if he keeps this up as well, I think he's finally starting to work himself back into what the Caps expect him to be. Sometimes you get a part that breaks down on a vehicle and you don't know if your replacement's going to fit very well, especially if it's an older one. Well, he's finally working out the grease or whatever it was that is making him fit a lot better with the Caps. I think he's finally at that point. So I don't know if he's worthy of top line duty yet.
Well, no, I don't think he ever was. I think you guys said something a couple of weeks ago on the show that I think made a lot of sense to me, which was you put him and the top line to learn the system and get the more minutes initially, but he's always slated for the third line unless you need him in a Swiss Army blade kind of role where you need him to be elevated higher up on the thing. But I don't think he was picked up to be top two line guy. He was second line when we first had him mostly, but I think it was always projected to be a third line guy. But I think people have to forget that he's been away from the team for a while, and this structure and this team is totally different than the team that he played on with the Capitals, right? I mean, It's got a couple of the same players, and it's the same team name, but different coach, different players around him.
And 4 years later, yeah,
it's
and a lot has changed since then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's going to take some time to adjust to that. It's not like he comes back and he immediately also picks up the chemistry, right? Because it takes time to build that chemistry. If you haven't haven't played with that person for years, their tendencies have changed. I mean, to say that Nick Backstrom's the same player he was 3 years ago, he's still a fantastic player, but like his tendencies have changed, right? Like, so it's difficult to just like plug and play. And that's why I think you're seeing with Mantha Ray, like it took him some time. People were like groaning, like, oh, I don't know if he's going to pan out. But for me, like, and, Vrana's, being incredible over in Detroit. And I understand a lot of players have left us and scored well, but they're moving up into higher positions on lines that we couldn't put them in, right? Mm-hmm. So Vrana didn't deserve to be on the top two lines of our system. And I don't think our system and our lines and our speed were what, Vrana needed. He needed to be on a speed line, and the Caps really aren't that type of team, right? It's not, he gets knocked off the puck in the style that the Caps play. So I think that they both could be good for the teams that they play on. I think Mantha is much more suited to the physical style of Caps hockey than Vrana was. But I think Vrana could really help Detroit with some of that speed stuff.
You have to think of it as like that joke where it's like you take the kid's toy that's different shapes with different holes. And yeah, you can fit almost every piece to the square hole if you really want to. And that's just forcing it. And yeah, it seems at that time like it can work, but everything has a design and a place to go for that purpose. And sometimes a player will fit in a system and they will translate, and you will see the best version of that player because they're more suited there. And it's like you're saying, like, I never had the privilege to watch Vrana, but I know he's incredibly fast. I know that he provided something that this team didn't necessarily was always able to accentuate, which is why Mantha, who was bigger and provides some of the similar scoring ability, was a good swap, because he did provide what the Capitals, the identity that we had established last year, worked. And that's how you have to look at it, is instead of having a rectangle piece going in a square hole, we actually got a square that goes in the square hole.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you could have basically the carbon copy, but the other side of, Tom Wilson. Like, it's the same player, but on the other side of the ice. You can either have them on different lines if you need that physicality, or you can have them on the same line, and then what do you do when those freight trains are coming at you? And you could put almost any center between them, and, good luck. You have to pick your poison kind of thing.
My favorite line that we have right now that we've been testing with is the Mantha, Backstrom, Tom Wilson line. That is my absolute favorite line to watch, because when those three are together, they are finding a way to make production happen. I mean, you can't ever discredit our fourth line. I think our fourth line is incredibly consistent, but that Mantha, Backy, Wilson line is something beauty to watch.
Yeah, it is.
It's weird because it means that TJ has to go to the third line, which is, it like throws.
Which is fine by me, because two things with regard to what Kasey just said. Wilson, Backstrom, and Mantha, perfect combination of the size and the skill, all in one package, in one line, that you need for playoff hockey. And the benefit to that is they're not even the top line. They're the second line. Mm-hmm. They're secondary scoring. That's the benefit. And on top of that, you've got Tom Wilson, who's maturing into a better leader type of player. He's learned not to take those bad penalties. That's going to be crucial come playoff time. Watch him in that. All the other teams that play against him are going to goad him into retaliatory penalties. He's not going to take the bait. He's learned his lesson. So keep your eye on him as far as that goes, because I guarantee that's going to be a tactic the other teams try to bait him into that bad penalty. And he's not going to fall for it, because he's knows.
He's not. And I agree with you, Gil, because, Tommy, I'm going to go like mama bear mode with that one. But I agree with you. But I will say there are times I'm a little disappointed in Mantha's control. I think that sometimes he can be a little hot-headed and not stop himself. So
once in a while. True.
Not all the time. Right. I will not say all the time.
You also have to give him some time, because I think that, I'm not sure the age difference in Wilson and Mantha, but Wilson's had a little more seasoning too. And I mean, sometimes it takes a couple seasons in a system for you to find that. And I think Mantha, if he's still with us in a couple of years, which I fully believe he will be, I'm not saying that he's going anywhere, but I think that if a line similar to that stays together, that's going to be one of our best weapons that we have as a hockey.
Absolutely. And that's what I think, like, for Tommy to show the maturity and, walk away from the taunting and everything else. That is only something that Mantha can learn from, because he's got a couple moments.
Mantha's 1 year younger than Tom Wilson. So it's not a drastic difference. It's 27 and 28. I just looked it up because I was curious. I was like, I actually, for some reason, thought that Mantha was like as old as Tom Wilson. I didn't even realize he was younger, but he looks so like grizzled. He looks like he's gone through years, right? I would not have picked him to be 27.
He plays hard.
Yeah.
That he does. So that was again, that was a perfect game, perfect 60 minutes, and you had Samsonov in the goal for that one. And I thought, I don't even think you can, the first one, the Nikushkin goal, I don't think you can really blame him for that one either. So he played probably as perfect a game as he could be, and opening up this can of worms again. The very next game, not so much, and that would be against the Knights over in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. And
Kasey makes a good point. I think we have I think we should take a little break before we get to the next game, just to talk to the charity for a second.
Absolutely. I was just going to ask about that.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, LG is already off because I didn't realize we're already past 8:00. But we can go in and we take a look at Primordial, which is the guy who's came on right after him. But I want to give LG a shout out for helping to organize it. And so we can take a quick look at Andy, who's actually this really cool guy. He's a rocker. He lives out in New Jersey. He's actually a mod for my Twitch channel, so that's kind of cool. I'm also a mod for his Twitch channel, and which basically means we're like the guardians of the chat, if you don't know what Twitch is. But so he's a really, really great guy, and I know that they're going to be rocking out. So let's take a little bit of a listen in to see how it's going, and then we can talk about the charity, and then we'll get back into the Vegas game after that. So let me see if I can get this screen share to work. And here we go.
Took the television and a gun from the wall, and almost every bullet from his chest of drawers. Well, he came home to find the house in a mess. He ran to the bedroom in the old brown chest. Didn't care much for the VCR, but he cried for the space where the bullets were. Well, the men took the truck down into town. They sold all the silver they had found, but they couldn't sell the bullets because they weren't live rounds. So they dug a big hole, put them all in the ground. Well, it doesn't leave the house much anymore, 'cause the men are gonna come like they did before. But he'll hold on to the 3 or 4 bullets that they left in his chest of drawers. Oh, the bullets that they left in his chest of drawers. Thank you so much, Kevin, for those bits. I really appreciate that.
So that is Primordial Sounds, and so that's the live raid train that's going on. And so I'll stop that share right now. But I just wanted to give a shout out to him, and I'll give a shout out in the Twitch chat as well to Andy. And so people can follow him, and we will raid into his performance afterwards. Right now, they're raising money for this awesome charity that we're also raising money for. We've now raised $2,410. So any bit helps. Obviously, awareness is the most important thing, but obviously money to help them in their causes to try to rid plastic of the ocean, which is an expensive endeavor, but it's something that's really important. But also they give money to many other different programs, as we highlighted at the beginning of the show. But I'll let Gil speak to any part of it that he'd like to talk about right now.
That was very good. I liked it. What was the artist's name?
His real name is Andy, but he goes by Primordial Sounds.
I like that. Very, very Dave Grohl-esque. I don't know what you thought of it, but remind me a lot of Dave Grohl.
Yeah, it's very grungy style. Loves like Stone Temple Pilots, and does like just a bunch of really cool stuff. He's a really good guy, and he's out of New Jersey, and a good friend of mine. So I'm happy that he's the anchor for this raid trade that's been going on since yesterday for Earth Day. But for such a great cause, I'm going to put the link in chat again on Twitch for anybody that wants to give to that as well. And
absolutely. And so this isn't going to be the last time that the Power Play Point podcast is involved in anything like this. So for future such charitable events, what we'd like for you to do as Caps fans is, if you have anything, Robbie and I were kicking this around, if you have some Caps memorabilia that you would like to donate for bidding purposes, or just for to award to the highest donor when we do something like this again, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. So I'm making an appeal to all our listeners and Caps fans in general for a charity such as this, Oceans Harmony. I'm sure you'll all agree, very, very important cause here. But going forward, when we honor charities like this, when we try to do something like this and raising money for them, if anyone out there is a Caps fan, has a piece of Caps memorabilia they'd like to donate, that would certainly generate donations and bids and anything like that, do please contact us, because really like to have you participate that way, get the word of mouth and of course the money going as far as that goes.
I also want to mention that the link will be on all of my videos and stuff like that, and I'll give it to Gil as well to put in the podcast notes, so that way people, if they're listening later and still would like to give, I believe that the donation link will be active. It's usually active for another week or so after the event, just to give people an opportunity if they want to. So I encourage, even if you're not watching the live program, I wanted people to know that there's still a possibility to give after the fact, or you can just go to Oceans Harmony and give a gift yourself, so it's not like it's something that has to end today.
But I actually think I do have something to offer for auction if somebody would be interested.
Sounds great.
I have a signed Mojo puck.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I'd be willing to put that out there to raise money for this. Absolutely.
That's awesome. All right.
Nice. Okay.
I can go get it if anybody needs to see it. It's amongst all my Tom Wilson swag. So, but yes, no, I do have that. And for a cause like this, I am okay to give it to someone who would be willing to.
Well, if somebody writes Caps fan in the liner notes of when they give a donation, just that way we know that it's coming from you, whoever is the largest donor that says Caps fan in the comments, we could maybe give it to them or something along those lines.
Awesome.
That works for me.
Yeah. So just make sure you put that in there, because otherwise I'm not going to know based on timing whether it was somebody donating to Andy's stream or Luis's before that or whatever. So just put Caps fan in the notes, and maybe put your name also in it, because I know usually it's like the Twitch name, but you can put whatever your Facebook name is or whatever you want us to know who you are, or you can even private message us on Facebook as well, just to let us know that you were that person, if that's easier. So but yeah, so thank you, Anna. That's really great. And
absolutely.
If not for this cause, if we don't get a big turnout for it, we could always use that for a future cause as well. So, but hopefully some people take a call to action for that. And I really appreciate everyone for donating. We're just actually at 2,550, so people are donating.
Oh, nice.
Love it.
stream. So I love that as well. It's cool to have the live bar here on Twitch, giving me a sense on how they are doing. And again, we'll raid into Andy when this is all done on my Twitch channel. And people can follow along there if they're watching along on Twitch. All right. Well, now that we've given a little appeal to people donating, we can get into this Vegas Golden Knights game where I just feel like so much was stacked against us. But it's a tough one.
Yeah, it was a tough one, and so you had Samsonov, who got the start against Colorado, and I thought he had a pretty good game. Probably one of his best this year. And then, this one, not so much, because two of the goals he ended up giving up, I thought he probably wanted to have back, and he knew it. You could tell in his attitude and his play. But like Robbie mentioned earlier, sometimes when he lets in one, it ends up being two. And, that, and Anna, you and I have discussed this. That's a sign of increasing, and growing maturity in a player, and not letting one mistake dictate, how you play and what the result is the rest of the game. And I think he just let himself get a little down because of it, and just shows that he's got ways to go in that department. So. Anyway, let's get to the scoring summary real fast. Kuznetsov opened the scoring, his 24th of the year, assisted by Ovechkin, his 40th, and Nick Jensen, his 15th, making it 1-zip, 6:18 in the first. And then Alec Martinez, his second of the year, ties it. Whitecloud and Janmark on the assist for that one, 13:51 the assist. The goal on that one, rather. And so that would close the scoring for the first period. The captain, who I thought was literally carrying this team on his back most of the game, his 49th, Kuznetsov, his 53rd assist, Marcus Johansson, his 19th assist on this one, 2:57 in the second. Caps had the lead. And then this was probably one of the goals that Samsonov let in that he definitely would have wanted back. Evgeny Dadonov, who was supposed to have been traded by the Knights at the trade deadline, but they forgot that he had a no-trade clause to certain teams. Oops. So he's still with them. Shea Theodore, remember that name on the assist on that one, evens the game at 2:05 in the third. And then ex-cap Chandler Stevenson bites them in the butt, gets his 19th, puts the Knights up 3-2. Pacioretty and Pietrangelo, this is a power play goal. And then Ovechkin, his 50th of the year. Yes, I say again, his 50th of the year. Are you listening, Mr. Pierre Maguire, Neil Greenberg, and Al? Are you listening, all his critics? 50. The man is 36 years old. 50. That's a 5 with a 0 behind it. That's how many goals he got this year.
One stat that I saw, 16 years apart, there has been 4 50-plus goal scorers, and he's 4 or more, and he's on both lists.
I saw that.
That's an amazing
amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Was it like the number of 50-goal seasons? He's like 36% of those over that's ridiculous. Like I saw someone else say this, like the term generational talent gets thrown around so much in sports, gets thrown around all the time, that this is a generational talent. This is a generational talent. Alex Ovechkin is a generational talent.
Truly.
100%. Yeah.
Truly. So he ties it with about 6.5 left in the game. And it was nail biting time, because you've got the Knights, who are literally fighting for their playoff lives, fighting back. And this is, the same spot the Caps were in late in the third period against Colorado. Okay, so you wonder how it's going to go. Goalies had a bit of a shaky game. Well, I think they played fairly well until the overtime and beyond. And then Shea Theodore pots his 14th for the game winner. Caps come out with the loser point. But I mentioned before, actually, it was Robbie that mentioned before that the forwards bear some responsibility for playing defense. Well, if you look at the replay of this goal by Shea Theodore, probably a pretty damn good example of the Caps forwards not playing defense, and allowing a critical goal. If you look at the replay, it was I believe it was Oshie on one side, who was closest to the boards, but Eller was playing the center spot, as it were, on the 3-on-3. I've got to admit, I'm not an expert on how those line up, how those positionings line up, who's considered where. But Eller is the natural center, so it's his job to make sure nobody takes over the middle as best as he can. If you look at the replay, it sure as heck does look to me like he gives up on the play and lets Shea Theodore just literally walk right past him and get a clear shot on Samsonov.
Overtime's such a weird sport now with how it's like changed. I mean, overtime hockey has changed drastically in the last 3 years in the style and, what people do that's effective. And the most effective thing I've seen consistently is really defensive cycling back into your zone until you have that one opportunity to strike, because just trying to go straight forward, you get ripped off and then you got 2-on-1 going the other way. You're almost always going to lose out in that situation. And this is sort of another one of those situations where I don't think we got full control over the puck, before we, got moving, and then we got stuck. And then it's such a fast game. It's in the back of the net by the time you can recover. It's, 3-on-3 hockey is just a weird hockey. It's nothing like anything you'll see in the playoffs.
I'll grant you that.
We play 5-on-5 in playoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God for that. Yeah, very true. But again, if you look at the replay, the two forwards, Oshie and Eller, did have their spots covered. All they had to do, they didn't even have to put a body on Theodore. They just had to do a lift check, stick check, poke check, something. Get in his way and check don't let him get the shot. And they just, I don't know. Oshie at least kind of leaned in, but he was out of position. It was really on Eller as the center to pick up his man, and he just didn't.
I rewatched that. Oh, sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, it's fine.
I rewatched that play probably 3 or 4 times today because, like I said, I these late night games for me are an impossibility. So I was watching the highlights, and I watched that highlight of that end, and there was so much that just went wrong with that last play that were simple fixes. Make the check, do something, make it hard on the goal scorer. I'm not beating up on Sammy, but he was way out of the blue paint. Like, he was completely out of it, and then by the time he corrected himself, the puck was behind him.
Well, they teach you in a breakaway situation to come out and take away the ankle. That's right. Historically why he's so far out. The problem is if he dekes you out of your skates, you're caught, right? Because you can go around him. So he does this a lot. He relies on this acrobatic play. I don't know if Vitek would have been as far out, but I understand why he makes that play, because
it's not being out of the blue area. It's how far out that I was really confused with, and then. Like I said, it was just that's what confused me. If he had even been so much as 3 inches closer, I think he would have been
but
in the
if
position.
He gets to the guy and poke checks it away and gets it going the other way, it could be a goal the other way. That's one of the things that's crazy about 3-on-3 hockey. Like, if he does get the poke check when he's far out or the long rebound to get it going the other way, then something could be made of it. But it's such a coin flip once it gets to overtime. So
it can be, but I still don't think it had to be, at least not on this play. So I mean, yeah, it's 1 point in the grand scheme of things. We'll see how this week plays out.
We've never gotten a point in Vegas,
right? And then maybe just maybe it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it was another point they could have had. A nice cherry on top for Ovechkin's 2 goals and getting his 50th, but just not to be, unfortunately. And
I have a question about that. It just seems to me with the Capitals, whenever they get a big milestone, they often lose the game. I mean, there's sometimes that they win. That happens a lot with them. I just find that interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just a momentary lack of focus or what it is. The team just gets to thinking about that, and they forget about their responsibilities. I really don't know what that is, but I've noticed that too, and increasingly frustrating, but and hopefully, there's not that kind of distraction in the playoffs. So hopefully they won't have to think about anything like that coming up as it's more, the team gets more united towards the common goal of winning the cup, not just who scores what goal, how many points, assists, whatever. So that's the one good thing about the playoffs, is that you have that common goal. But yeah, that I've noticed that as well, and that's extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Caps come away with the loser point, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. So it's on to Arizona in the latest game of the week. I'll be honest. This game literally put me to sleep about 3 different times. I understand there was a goal by Garnet Hathaway that was a bit controversial that was called away. I saw the replay a couple times. I didn't think it was that big a deal. I thought the right call was made. His stick was literally above the crossbar, so you got to call it back. That's the rule. And then Arizona, I mean, I'm surprised they're not more successful, because I would say for 2/3 of this game, at least, they did a pretty damn good job of keeping the Caps at bay. They certainly shut down the power play. The power play was non-existent in this game, almost literally. They did get their chances. I think they were 4. They got 4 chances. I don't even know if they registered a shot on any of them, much less a goal.
I know one of them, the other team got 2 better scoring chances, like 2 good scoring chances. They got a shorthanded chance on a couple of them. You're right. Yeah. I do recall that. But their goalie is pretty equal to the task. Karel Vejmelka. I think he's one of the most underrated goalies in the league, if you ask me. He's always given the Caps fits, and this game was no different. Stopped 27 out of 29. I'm going to draw a line through this game because, Arizona is the worst team, or one of the worst teams in the league. And some will say, well, Caps should have done better. Maybe they should have, but the bottom line is they still got the win. I'm not too worried about the fact that they had so much trouble getting around Arizona's defense, and Vejmelka being the backstop that he is. I mean, at the end of the day, you still got the 2 goals and the 2 points. Quick run of the scoring summary. Let's see. It was Connor Sherry, the guy we were talking about, Backstrom and Schultz on the assists. This was kind of a funny one. He wasn't even sure if he put it in. But Backstrom,
he was trying to give it to Backy. He kept saying, "It's yours, it's yours." Yeah,
Backstrom put a shot on goal that was looked like it was going to hit the post, and then Connor Sherry got a stick on it. He even said in the interview later he wasn't sure if he hit the puck or the defenseman's stick, but they credited it to him all the same, and that turned out to be the game winner. No goals in the second, and then of course Carlson ices it for his career high 16th. Of the year. Dowd and Sherry on the assist for that one. They made Vitek Vanacek the number 1 star. It could have easily been Connor Sherry, who was the number 2. Vitek, of course, V squared, as I like to call him, stopped all 19 Arizona shots for his, I think that's his 5th shutout this season.
That might be right. I know it's his 6th career one, but I think he had one the year before. So that
right. Not too bad for him. But again, we were playing the worst team in the league, and so I'm going to draw a line through this game. I don't think the Caps did anything bad, didn't do anything exceptional either. I don't think we should have expected a 6-0 win, but.
So, Gil, I think that they may have been conserving energy, knowing they were going to have to travel back, have a tough game against Toronto, which I'm super excited that Toronto has to play Florida tonight, because it kind of mitigates that a little bit. But I think that you roll the lines and you try not to get too tired or get injured. I think that that's another thing, is you have to play the numbers games. You push hard to get 6 goals in a game. You don't need 6 goals. Someone could get hurt, right? You want to play positionally sound. But I actually think that Arizona looked like a really good defensive team to me throughout the game. And their problem this year, I'd have to go back and see how good they are. But from what it looked like, it's their scoring. Like, as a team, all of their forwards I saw had 75 goals. and Ovechkin has 50 goals. I mean, just so like, you're not going to win a lot of games, but they could be good defensively, but just not scoring enough. So I'd have to go back. And
you also have to look at how many shots on goal each team took. Yeah. We had 10 more shots on goal than they did for the entire game.
Yeah.
That's almost a period of play more shots. When you have to factor that in, that just means that they're either not getting chances, or the chances they do get aren't connecting. They're not finding their way in, and sometimes that's going to change. A couple additions, a couple good draft picks, a couple good signings in the off season, that can change, and we could start seeing that favor turn around for them. But I do think we played better in our offensive zone last night. Even if their defense did give us some fits, we still got nearly 30 shots on net.
True. And that's always been a hallmark of offensive production. If you get the shots on net, even with the style of play they have, now the production is still there. It just wasn't anything or as much going in. The only thing that really worried me about this game was the two back-to-back high-danger chances the Coyotes got. I think it was in the middle of the first period where that happened, which tells me, Robbie's right. I think they were kind of letting up on the gas pedal, as it were, and then that happened, and I think they realized, okay, well, if we don't cover our hindquarters, this team could actually, put up a fight and steal a point or two from us. So I think that kind of woke them up.
BB definitely had some luck with that. I believe it was the first shot that they had hit that post.
Well, I also, there's some weird plays in that game. Like, I still don't understand the call of the goal that's hit with the high stick, but goes off of their player, which I thought negates that, and then in, but because he touched it with a high stick, they somehow took it away. I don't understand that call. It's frustrating.
So the way I understand it is the shot on goal. It's considered a shot on goal by him, with a high stick, with an illegal high stick, because it was above the crossbar. It's still a shot on goal if it deflects off of an opposing player. And I think Alan May tried to explain this during the game. Had the shot deflected off of one of his teammates, say Trevor Van Riemsdyk, who was also, I think he was also close by, had it deflected off him, the shot would have been credited to the other player on the Caps, and therefore it would have been a legal goal.
Got it.
Is what I think what he was trying to explain.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the rule, when I looked it up, it leaves a lot of room for interpretation. It is a not very obvious rule. And I think that they just said, well, they called it, they touched with the high stick on the ice. So they're just going to keep with that because there wasn't enough to overturn it, right?
Right.
So if they hadn't called it that way to begin with, I don't think they would have been like, it wouldn't, I just think it was based on there wasn't enough to overturn.
It probably wouldn't have been overturned if, like you said, it would probably have been a good goal. It's one of those things that's such a corner case that I don't think that we see it enough. The closest thing that we probably see with it from this season that's had any type of argument is those Michigan goals by Trevor Zegras.
Right.
Yeah, that's this goal and plays like that. It's never going to be a problem until it actually is. And what I mean by that is an example of that is 2 playoffs ago where there was the Vegas Golden Knights and the Sharks series where the guy got the 5-minute penalty and it shouldn't have been a 5-minute major, and now you have a rule where if it's called a 5-minute major, it has to go under review. So as they say, you never you hope you never have to build a stop sign or a traffic light, and then one day you have an accident, and, well, that's what you end up having to do. And unfortunately, that's how the league treats these kind of situations. So I'm just afraid that this kind of a play is going to be no different, where somehow, some way, it's going to generate too much controversy that they have to react. And it's one of the about 1,000 things I don't like about the league, but there you go.
Yeah, I think I kind of like the idea that if it touches the opposing player, it should negate the high stick, just like it would if you touched our player. I don't think that that's what the rule is, to try to not bat it down into it, but that's not what this was. He tried to he wasn't trying to score. In fact, he was literally trying to get it off the top of the net to the player in front, and it happened to bounce off that guy and in. Right. Yeah, so there's no way that there's an intent that he was trying to like knock it in that way.
Right. But as Gail pointed out earlier, you can't prove intent.
Right.
Yeah. And that was probably the hardest part about that call.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, thus ended that game. So the Caps end the week or finish out the road trip, not counting the Toronto game, with a 3-0-1 record, 7 out of 10 points the whole trip, only failing to score standings points in that dreadful first game against Toronto. Speaking of which, previews of coming attractions, as Robbie just mentioned, they play. Is it tonight? It's tonight against the Panthers. So they end up with a back-to-back because they also play tomorrow night against our Caps at Cap One Sunday tomorrow.
Which jersey are you going to wear?
I haven't decided between this one, the Oshie one, which I'm perfect in, or my Kuznetsov, which unfortunately, as much as I love Kuzi, every time I've worn his jersey to a live game, we've lost.
Well,
so
wear the one that you're perfect in, not the one that
I'm probably going to wear the Oshie jersey. Although probably going to have to run it through the wash, but yeah.
I will say, as we talk about Kuznetsov, we were talking earlier about barometers of the success. A lot of people put our success on our goalies. Watch Kuzi, because the majority of our games that we've been successful in this year is the games that Kuzi's motor is on. Even if he's not translating on the stat sheet, he is out there, he is skating, he is flying. And that was something I noticed in the Coyotes game, was that Kuzi didn't have his motor on. And I knew we were in for a longer night, because I feel like as much as this is, we say that it's Ovi's team, because it is Ovi's team, he's our captain. But Kuzi's play is often the determination of how the rest of the team comes out and goes alongside.
Well, his energy is so contagious.
Yes, and that's what I'm getting at. His energy when he hits the ice, and that's the same thing that happens. Like, I often say this: you look, there's 3 players that I have to look for their energy when they're playing. How does Kuzi come out? How does Wilson come out? How does Oshie come out?
Yep.
If those 3 are turned on, our team is turned on.
Yep.
Ovi picks up on it. Backy picks up on it. Carlson, it goes down, and it's how it is. Like, you got to look for the energy levels. And like I said, if Kuzi comes out tomorrow night against Toronto and that engine's humming and those skates are going, I believe we'll have a good game, and I believe we could walk away with 2.
Well, I'm hoping so. But the flip side to that is, and I'll credit not just because she's given me and my wife tickets, but I'll credit C4 Cheryl-Ann Forster with this. Sometimes you get the opposite, and it's because that Kuznetsov lets the game get into his head too much. He thinks too much. He doesn't just act. He doesn't let himself be himself. And when he does that, then you see the hesitation, the overskating the puck, the overhandling the puck. His passes aren't there. He's not charging the net. He's not where he should be. So you're right, Kasey. He's one of the guys you got to watch in those first 5 to 10 minutes. If he's doing all of that, then yeah, we're in for a long game. But if he's up and down the ice and he's moving that puck and he's looking like he's flying out there, then yes, it's going to look good for the Caps. And so he's going to be a driving force. I think I'm going to look out for that as much as I can when I go to that game. So that's tomorrow night, 7:00 puck drop at Cap One, and then Tuesday is the last home game. Tuesday the 26th. 7:00 puck drop, also against the New York Islanders. So they'll round out the season. I love what Monumental Sports have done. They basically have made these last 2 games more or less fan appreciation night for both of them. They're actually having a special ceremony for Alex Ovechkin the last game on Tuesday, probably for scoring his 50th. I wish I could be there for that, but it's going to be great both games. If
but
you're
I think,
a fan.
Aren't you guys? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sure, no, go ahead.
Just have it. Just kidding. I know, now that I have to like see your face when I do it, it makes it even harder because it's like,
you're fine. You're
no,
fine.
I think tomorrow, don't you get like a cool poster though?
Yes.
Yeah,
they're handing out posters. This cool poster with 5 of the veterans on there.
It's such a great picture.
Yes, and I'm definitely going to hang that up in my office. So now that we're on video, you can actually see me do the air quotes I like to do. My office area, which is my only designated man cave spot. So I'm definitely going to hang that up by that. So yeah, it's going to be a cool giveaway for that. They're also doing a lot of different giveaways mid-game as well. Not sure what they're giving away exactly, but yeah, they're going to be lots of stuff. So going to be a rocking good time for sure. But yeah, really hope we come away with a win, because that's probably going to be this whole week, probably the biggest test that they're going to have, because I think Toronto is a dark horse. I think people are going to look at their history and say, oh, they're going to flame out in the first or second round. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either.
If they play Tampa Bay, they will. I don't know if you guys saw that game, but Tampa Bay just took it to them the other day, and it was like, if you play us, this is what you're gonna get a taste of. Both physically beating them up, fights, goal scoring. It was just, they put it on them in every way.
Yeah, now that's right. That's going to be the thing. If they play against a really physical team, I don't know in a 7-game series how that's going to hold up. But if they let their speed and skill take over, and they've actually got some decent goaltending for once, I think they might do some damage. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because honestly, I don't want to see them win. But Toronto's had so many years in a row where they're like, this is going to be the year, and it just never is. And that's why, and nobody's counting on them. That's why I'm thinking maybe this might be the year they sneak in and do a lot better.
A big problem. It's interesting because right now they would be the home team against Tampa Bay. They're actually doing better than them in the standings, but I still believe that Tampa Bay could go on the road and wallop them. But it's interesting. Right now they're playing the Panthers, the top team, and it's 2-1. Mitch Marner got on the board first, and they got a second goal. So they're up 2-0 by the end of the first. And Barkov got his 39th of the season to make it 2-1. There's now 5:15 left in the second period as we're live right now. But that's going to be an interesting matchup to see how much they extend themselves to win that game versus the game against us. 'Cause they have a slight chance to overtake Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has a slight chance to overtake them, but I just don't see it happening. But I don't know if that even really matters. It's going to be, one of the things we talk about is where the seeding is also close. There's Pittsburgh, I believe, won today. So they're right now still in that third Metro spot. But Boston and us are tied at 99, I believe, still points. And it's going to be interesting to see whether we play Carolina, whether New York can find a way to that spot, whether we play Florida. And there are times where I think we've played well against all three of those teams this year. There's also times we played terrible against them. We're giving up games that we could have won. And so it's hard to know, pick your poison, who I want to even play by the end of the week. But I think that's an interesting discussion, at least to talk about as we sort of.
Yeah. We'll get. Go ahead.
I think the only one that I really want to duck is Florida. That's just for me personally.
Historically,
what
about Florida scares you, Kasey?
When I watch them, they have extremely good offensive output, and right now, with us never truly knowing which goalie we're going to put in, and with our forward positioning, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. If we get out of position, they're the team that I feel like is going to make us pay the most. If they break through our couple little cracks, I'm afraid they're the ones that can capitalize the best out of the other, of the three teams, whether it be Carolina or it be New York.
I see that argument. Go ahead, Robbie.
They're on a 12-game win streak right now going into this game.
Yeah. No, they've certainly got momentum, and I do see all that argument. The two things I would counter with, though, are the fact that I'm sure so the last time these two teams played, the Caps pretty much had the game won in the third period, and they just collapsed. Right. They stopped playing. And they were actually up by, 3 or 4 goals. And Samsonov was in goal for that one. And he was literally the only one playing and keeping up appearances. And the rest of the team just stopped. And they ended up getting 4 goals. Of course, who got the blame for that? The goalie. But he had no defense in that last 20 minutes.
But see, that's also what I'm pointing out, Gil, is like if we collapse or we have the crack, they punish. And it doesn't necessarily go on Sammy. That's not just completely what I mean, but all teams that are going to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs deserve to be there. And it's a pick your poison of who you play. Like for me though, their offensive output kind of scares me. And maybe that's just me being a new fan. I'm seeing a lot of pucks hit the back of the net, and I'm like, ooh, okay.
No, I totally get that. But the one thing you have to understand about the Stanley Cup playoffs is that kind of play gets ramped down probably about 150%. There is much, much more emphasis on defense come the playoffs. And what they can do during the regular season, maybe not so much is going to happen in the playoffs. I think you're going to see that. You're going to see that, and the Caps play up to that. If that's who they manage against or end up playing against in the first round, then it could be a very interesting series. Now, let me round out real quick the rest of the finality of the schedule. It's actually 2 games in New York. The Islanders again in Long Island. They finish the season against the Rangers. That's going to be another good test.
Ryan Reeves.
So, yeah.
See who they play in that game, if the Rangers have something to play for or not, or if the Capitals have something to play for or not. And one quick question I have for you guys. If they don't win this Toronto game tomorrow, I don't think that they're going – I think we're kind of stuck in the position that we are. I'd be surprised if we move much from that. And so do you want to see some of these young guys back in the lineup for a game or two, just so that way it hasn't been like over a month since they've played, if we need them in emergency situations in the playoffs? Like for me, like giving Nicholas Backstrom a night off and put, Connor McMichael in, or, playing, some of the other, Axel, playing some of him, on one of the wing spots to give some other. If we could run the table and we can get a better spot, then I think you take the chance. But if you lose tomorrow, do you think in the final 3 games, Gil, would you like to see some of these young guys in the lineup, or do you think you still just put the same team out there every night?
Well, the last week of the season going into the playoffs, if you've clinched, is all about momentum, but it's all about getting the right amount of rest too. So like you said, I wouldn't mind seeing a Backstrom or even a John Carlson getting a night off, as long as it's a night off and not the whole week. I don't want the rink rust to accumulate. So no, as long as it's reasonable, that being 1 game only where these guys come back in, maybe the last game of the season so they get that extra rest, then no, I don't mind.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether you would choose to do it over the Rangers, because the last game is a little closer, but it costs me more physical, right? See, my gut is you let them rest one of the 2 Islanders games because you're probably going to get the win anyway. And then the Rangers game, they come back in because it's more like a playoff, it's a team that you would see in the playoffs, and then don't give them the mental edge. That's sort of how I saw it. But
right. So, Anna, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm kind of I can see sitting play. I would love to see Axel. I just want to start with that. I would love to see him out there again. I
would too. I think he's earned his spot.
Yeah, there's something about that player that is just, I just think there's so much potential there. And I think he just meshes with the team very, very well. Would like to see him. McMichael, whatever, yes or no, whether he's there or not, great or not, I don't really have a preference either way. But I do know that the Islanders versus Rangers, like what Robbie's saying, that physical end there's a big difference. And there's always that stupid Ryan Reeves, Tom Wilson thing that more so has become more of a media hype than anything. And Reeves is always wanting to, and Tommy's finally, been like, whatever, you're lame and, whatever. But I could see, Mantha going after him or something. But is it worth it? Like, you don't want to risk the injury, but then we also don't do well when we have a lot of time off. So I agree with Gil and you saying that if you're to give like a Nikki and a Carlson, like a night off would be good, not the whole week. But who do you want to see? Like, do you really want to set them up for possibly getting injured going up against the Rangers? I don't. Why risk it, So I'm kind of have that where it's like, do you put in the younger players to say, oh, we're initiate you into the Rangers, like, here you go and see how that goes. I truly am kind of stuck on that one.
I really don't want anyone to get injured in this last week. That's like my,
that's my thing. Yeah. And it's like, and I feel like all teams would love nothing more than to take out a Tommy or take out, Ovechkin or something, like
just have nothing to play for,
exactly.
So
but it's like, it's that kind of stuff where it's like, they just, so you don't want to say, oh, there's not dirty. There are dirty players out there, but you would hope that they would not do that, but you just don't want to take the risk. So,
and maybe the Rangers wouldn't take the risk because they don't want to get a suspension right before the playoffs themselves, or
they don't want to get hurt themselves either. Because they're probably one of the favored teams to advance, so they probably don't want to get involved in anything like that themselves.
Well, and they play so physical as well. So it's like I said, it's like if you take that Reeves Wilson thing out of it, the other players are, they've got a damn good roster. So why? I just don't want to see, like Robbie said, like there'd be nothing worse than having an injury this upcoming week for us to be like, oh my God, what the hell just happened?
We've done well with injuries throughout this season, but at the same time, like we finally got the lines to gel. Like we've taken the whole year to get us here. And
and it's not like the injuries in the beginning of the season are totally different than almost at the playoff. You're just like, oh my God, we're so close.
I do have one scoring update real quickly. Our old friend Claude Giroux scores on the power play, his 21st goal of the season. Justin Herbedeau, I can't remember, but 84 assists this year.
Jesus. And that's a light.
It is hella surprising how far that team has come. Yeah, I don't think a whole lot of people were ready for it.
And Barkov, who got the goal earlier, got the assist on that one, secondary assist for his 49th of the season. So he's got almost 40 goals and has almost 50 assists. So anyway, 2-2. I mean, that's a dangerous team. It's now in the second intermission. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of that game goes. And I'm rooting for that game to go to overtime because I don't care about loser points on the Atlantic side. Play them as long as they can. 30 rounds, get them real tired for, tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll wrap it up by saying this. I don't know if I'm hoping for a Florida first round matchup, but if it does happen, I'm pretty sure the powers that be in the hockey media will have the Caps as the underdog. And you know what? That suits me just fine.
Yeah.
Can I go back and add to the last point about going into that final week? Robbie, you said something there at the end that I think is more important than just about anything else. Our lines are finally starting to gel. And Gil pointed out that the last week is about momentum. Last year, heading into the playoffs, we had Ovi resting. Ovi missed a game. We had questions with Backstrom. We had questions with Carlson. I think one of the games that we played last year, all three of them were out at the same time. I don't think that really affected that Boston series all that much, but you do want to see your players gelling together. Let's keep these lines together. Let's keep pushing. I think I would almost rather, even if we lose against Toronto, I still want to keep the lines together, keep the momentum going, and keep that gel kind of put together so that way when we go into the big show, there is no surprises. There is no question. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. Which
so you're
totally makes sense though. Like, I mean, and that's how I would be like, stick with everything, stick with the consistency, the chemistry, all those things that we love. I just am always like, okay, if I have to be the Debbie Downer, oh my God, an injury. Like, oh my God. Just, and you don't want to think that, because then of course, sometimes when you're like, you overthink the injuries and something stupid happens. And so that's just, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. I'm just glad that it's not at 10:30 because I obviously didn't see 2 of the games this week. So
me either.
Yeah, too old on this end.
I'm so mad that I missed 50 live. I'm happy I woke up, but then I was like, I missed 50 live and they lost. I was like, God. I had it on in the bedroom because I don't have kids in the house right now, and so I could actually have a TV blaring in the middle of the night. But I still fell asleep to it in that Vegas game during that second intermission. Those intermissions always get me. Yeah,
99% of the time, if I miss a game, we win. That was hard.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it'll be an interesting battle. I'm looking forward to talking to Anna on Monday, about how this Toronto game goes. I really think it could change some of how you play out the last 3 games. I think if you have a chance to move up, I think you really take it. But I think if you don't, I think in some ways, specifically Backstrom, I really think I would put Connor McMichael in for a game, just because he's been dealing with so much, things. You don't want a chance for him to tweak it, and what he'll bring come playoffs. I mean, he played with some broken bones, I think, in the Stanley Cup run, so what you're going to get out of him. But you don't want to risk something further injuring it in the last week if you don't have something to gain for it.
What was it they called the last one, a maintenance day?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I could use a maintenance day.
I'm going to leave that one alone, Anna. You left the door wide open on that one, but I'm not touching.
I did. I was waiting, and it was like crickets.
Gil's showing restraint. He's.
Wait till you hear my last ending joke. But I think I think it's time for another live look before we wrap it up for this episode.
That's perfect. We'll do a live look, and I see right here that they've made 2,570. We'll take a look to see what Primordial Sounds is doing. We'll definitely raid into them. What we'll probably do after this, I'll let Gil say his final thoughts and final goodbyes, and then we will end our Facebook live feed, and then we will stay on Twitch for just a couple moments more to chat. And then we will raid out into the raid train. I know that Anna's got to go, so she'll probably miss the Twitch extended bonus.
I'll miss the extended version if that's okay. I do. Yeah, I've got to deal some with my kids, but that's okay.
No, I totally understand. But Anna, why don't we let Anna go real quick right now, and then we could do the live look, and then we can
miss the joke.
Oh, okay. If you want to, I didn't know if you wanted to hear the joke.
I never want to hear the joke.
Okay. All right, I'll let you stay on then for the joke. And I was giving you.
You were giving me an out. I kind of am like, ooh.
Yeah, I know.
All right, Gil.
You didn't take it. She stayed. So, all right. With that, we're going to take a live look on into Andy and see how they're doing. Let me see.
Yeah, I agree. I really like his music as well. So, Robbie, please let him know that we're into it.
Yeah, for sure. He's great. Let me see here if we can pull.
Started to do card tricks. I know what we'll put on. Little cover I made recently. Song we'll probably do shortly, but yeah, the cover of The Night We Met. So,
he's going to break real quick. Well, anyway, he is fantastic. I really do.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Come in and join him. Actually, you can see that he does the Pokemon game on his stream, just like I do on mine. And I have to give Kasey a shout out. He's caught a bunch of Pokemon on stream live on Twitch while he's been doing that with me, as I have been. So it's kind of a fun thing. If people don't know, they can always join us for Twitch for when we do the live podcast. I'll stop the screen share for now since he isn't there. But definitely people should give to a great cause for Ocean Harmony. It's awesome. I'm happy the Raid Train is doing it. We'll definitely be going over there in just a few minutes. Again, Primordial Sounds, twitch.tv/Primordial Sounds is how you find him. And then also the giving links are all in the description of the Facebook, but also in the chat here on Twitch as well. But I'm super excited that we got to do this. Great collab stream.
Love it.
And this is sort of the first time unofficially that Kasey's been on Sports on the Hill podcast. So I appreciate him joining us
Awesome.
for that. And I know he loves basketball and other DC sports. So maybe we'll have him on in the future or in the, I know he's getting into baseball. So maybe in the summertime, we have a baseball roundtable. Maybe we could do something with that. But and I'm excited to talk Toronto with you and these other games again on Monday. But I think we'll have an interesting discussion, so people can still tune in 9:00 on Monday. Sports on the Hill podcast will be live on Twitch and Facebook and all that as well. I want to thank everybody for tuning in live on the Facebook Live thing. Cheryl Ann has been great. And she also mentioned earlier that Oshie has been out a lot this season and doesn't seem to be quite the same, so she's kind of okay with him being on the third line. I think
it's funny. I was going to say if we had to do on the third line, but also if he needed to have to sit out a game, I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah,
that would probably be my choice, just for a maintenance day.
Exactly.
Where I would put Axel back in.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So anyway, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. There's still a bunch of people watching on the Facebook, but then also there's a bunch of people watching on our Twitch live as well. So I really thank people from tuning in from all over the world for that as well. It's more of a global audience on Twitch, which is kind of cool about it. We've had even a New Jersey Devil come fan and talking to me. So I always like talking to Swimmy about the Devils and the Capitals, and he was pretty upset last year, of course, when we took all 8 of those. It's been a lot of fun to do this. But Gil, I'll let you do your final wrap up, and then we'll end the Facebook Live, and then we'll do our little bonus talk on Twitch.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody, our distinguished panel, as it were, for coming on. Kasey, thanks again. You're awesome again, as always. Of course, we're going to have you on. Well, looks like you got an invite not only to our podcast, but now on our partner podcast with Sports on the Hill.
So, Kasey, that means you have to be careful, because if we're going to be on Power Play and Sports on the Hill, you've got to decide Team Anna, Team Gil when it comes to that joke. Just kidding. Totally kidding. I'm so glad you're on. It's so great to see you in person.
I'm so thankful that I actually got to be on with you this time, Anna, as well. That was, if I could say one thing disappointed me from the round table, that was it, because I love listening to you and Gil. It's been one of the best parts of my first full year of Caps fandom was finding the Power Play Point podcast.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, great to hear. We appreciate your enthusiasm and your taking part in this. You're a great example of what we love to do, and that's hear from Caps fans. Speak your mind and back up your knowledge about sports in general and your increasing knowledge of hockey, and you proved that again. So love that you came on again. So we'll definitely have you on later. So thanks again, good sir.
I certainly appreciate it. Thank you all. Thank you again, Robbie, for having me on the Pseudo Sports on the Hill podcast.
So for the Mermaid Anna Knox, Mr. Kasey Malone, and Stick Tap, of course, for the podcast version to Mr. Robbie Gross of the Sports on the Hill podcast. One more plug, as he said, you can catch that on Facebook Live and on the Twitch network Monday evenings at 9 a.m. They start off with Caps Talk with, of course, our one and only lovely mermaid leading the way on that one. Anna Knox, you can hear her there as well. So if you missed this, you can hear her recapping them. And so for our distinguished panel, thanks for listening. So this is the Blue Liner on Point, signing off and reminding you that I've got a story about a dumb Penguins player. Seems he was late for a game and had to catch a plane. Well, he was driving to the airport, and he was almost there when he saw a sign that said airport left. So he turned around, drove home.
No.
You chose to stay.
God. Gil.
Watching Anna is almost better than the joke.
Hallelujah, and let's go Caps.
Let's go Caps.
Let's go Caps.
This has been another episode of the Power Play Point Podcast. All episodes are available from Apple Podcasts, the Podbean app, blueliner77.podbean.com, and now available from Stitcher. Music by Joe McAllister, voiceover by Jeffrey Conkle.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Power Play Point Podcast. Thanks for listening.